Well, if it isn't election day, holy Christmas, election day, and you guys again. Imagine seeing you guys again.
Well, on screens this time. We got to see each other in 3 dimensions. In lovely, dimpled flesh last night, we were able to hug one another.
Much hugging ensued.
It was great. And
aided
Scott,
by bourbon.
And it was lots of bourbon. But Scott and I get to spend 116 hours together starting tonight at 6 p.m. So if you turn in, although they were joking about us, Scott, when I was leaving the studio. They were like, you and Reid are having too much fun. We may put the NDP guy between you. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't put the NDP in between.
He's a nice guy, but come on, you got to keep us together. Otherwise, that cooler between us is going to get awkward.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to hand our beer over him during the 116 hours we're on TV.
Well, I'm going to be on the radio, and I suggest that you listen, because in that long stretch of time, when you guys are going to be arguing about whether the Liberals won 26 or 27 seats in Atlantic, Canada, before any of the other results come in, hey, Pia Chattopadhyay and I are going to be talking riders. There's a long time to fill there. And so there's going to be a detailed breakdown of the rider offensive line and some of their challenges. So that's, I think, where you should go for your early coverage at a minimum. Nick, what are you going to be watching tonight? You're going to be watching them or listening to me?
I'm going to be watching...
You know how to bait a hook, Herle. Boy.
I'm going to be looking at a photo I got last night because you know what? You guys were the first 3 people I saw every damn morning for the last 5 weeks. And the last thing I see before I go to sleep last night is the 3 of you posed in front of the CN Tower. And I didn't have any FOMO. None at all. Didn't feel jealous in the least.
Like visitors from Australia. It's so tall. And it lights up.
I left Toronto yesterday. I drove as fast as I could to get back to Ottawa. I didn't stop for gas. I worked for 5 or 6 hours, and that was the last damn thing I saw. I'm glad you had a good time, though. I'm going to be watching you tonight on TV. I'm going to be listening to you, David, on CBC Radio. I'll be up all night just like all of you.
After 36 days of together, I detect a slight hint of, I hope you people fuck right off in your voice there, Nick.
It's actually the opposite. I promise you. It's been a good time.
It has been a great time, Nick. It has been a great time. And thanks for coming up every morning and hanging out with us. It's been super.
And it has been, yeah, tell us. No. I was going to say, Nick, we'll come to Ottawa and we'll all hang out at Darcy McGee's because it's the most political bar, like right outside of Langevin. Like, we will do that. But also, please tell us where the leaders are today.
Well, the leaders are just voting today. They're just being boring, and then they're going to party or not party at their victory parties that maybe won't get to be victory parties for anybody, depending on how slowly the results come in and how many ridings depend on the mail-in vote, right? There might be a few.
So there's 900, 990K of mail-in ballots.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody really thinks at this point, I could be wrong, that the election result will rest on those, but definitely some close ridings will, and so that'll be, those are the kinds of things that I think people like us have a lot of fun waiting up and watching. But the leaders are just where you think they're going to be. Trudeau's in Montreal, and Singh is in Vancouver, and Annamie Paul, you know where she is, and Aaron O'Toole he's not in Bowmanville, but he's in probably the biggest room available in Oshawa. And so he's in Oshawa tonight. He's at
where the arena, right?
Yeah, he's at a community center. And it's
there's always ridings that like turn on in terms of recounts. So we had a recount in Rivière-du-Loup after 2011. So we had won a majority. We were all fucking happy. Stephen Harper comes to like say hi to all the HQ staff on 4 days after the election. And I literally had just gotten word from our like recount team that we had lost Rivière-du-Loup. It was in the win column the day of the election. It was in the loss column. And as Harper's leaving, he looks at me and he goes, "Bring Bernie home to Ottawa. Win me Rivière-du-Loup." And I'm like, is this a good time? Like, I'm thinking to myself, do I tell him what this phone call was that just pulled me out of the room? And I said, okay, It was great seeing you. Thanks for coming out. I'll be
Right
in,
call.
I'll
Right
be in
call.
touch.
That's the right call. Do not be the deliverer of bad news on an otherwise good evening. Well, I just want to mar this historic occasion, sir, with this little piece of information.
No,
and forever
literally,
love me.
5 minutes later, I called Ray Novak and said, yeah, if you could just pass along, we lost Riviere Duluth. Yeah. You're still walking back to Langevin from Albert Street, where our HQ is, but just let him know I'm all good.
Well, I hope the O'Toole people didn't invest too much in balloons.
Nick, don't you think that it would be great if Enemy Paul, instead of giving a concession speech this evening, just read out the statement of claim that she never bothered to table in that lawsuit that was suspended and just gave us a blow-by-blow of what really went down and who was rat-fucking her and how it all went down? I'd like to see her literally call people out for the amateurish kneecapping that her own party gave her and just have her say, all right, I'm out of order, you're out of order. I want to see her go crazy. That'd be awesome.
Well, I think it's great.
If the only MP who's green tonight at the end of it all is Elizabeth May. I mean,
for sure will be the case, I bet. I'd bet a case of beer on it.
But I assume, Scott, if you're looking at her doing the whole readout of her last 8 months of being leader, a lot of it is going to be directed at your friend Elizabeth May.
You know what? I say do the laundry in the front room right now. Let's see it. Let's have the whole thing out.
So we have a serious pollster disagreement, eh?
Big time.
We have a serious and Frank is either going to be the genius of this election campaign or have a little bit of explaining to do about the process. But as I look at 338 and some of the other polls, they seem to be coming in at around a 1 or 2 point Liberal lead. They seem to be coming in at around an 8 point lead in Ontario for the Liberals. But here is the last final EKOS roundup of the last 3 days. And
do you want me to stick around for this? This is usually when I just run away.
Yeah, you know what? It's the last day, Nick. You can hang out.
Why don't you just stay for the whole thing?
Just hang out.
Just stay.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, pour some bourbon in your coffee and hang out with us.
Liberals 33.5, Conservatives 26.5.
This is national, not Ontario.
National. Yeah. NDP 18, Greens 4, People's Party 10, Bloc Québécois 7.
So what are Ontario?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Ontario has to be a lead of 44 points. It has to be big
Liberals
margin.
43, Conservatives 27, NDP 18, Green 3, People's Party 9.
Well, so if that's the case, if those numbers are accurate, the Liberals win a majority based in Ontario.
Well, that would be like 100 seats in Ontario, wouldn't it be, Jenny?
Probably. It would be we would be losing the fringe of the 905 seats. Aaron, with those numbers, Aaron would have a hard time with his own seat.
That's a good point, actually. At that, you would think that margin's coming out of the 905 by and large, right? You're going to lose incumbents in with that result. If Frank is correct,
well, it's the worst Ontario number for the Conservatives, Jenny, since 2000.
Yeah, because we got 30% of the vote in Ontario in 2004, I think. So it would be since 2000, since the Alliance days. Yeah.
But everybody else is sort of 32-40 with an 8 point margin, right? So right. Frank is the outlier. Almost all the others have converged, right? They're all more or less 32-31 national. Okay.
Yeah, yes, they've kind of, but all of them have a Liberal win. So regardless of the polls, Frank's kind of on one side, but regardless of the pollster, it puts it into a Liberal win. It's just a matter of how many seats.
Still going strong here, Herle Burleites, on our little series on perception versus reality. This is damn it, I've lost track. Let's call it number 23. One of my favorite numbers because it was Ronnie Lancaster's. If you don't know who the great Ronnie Lancaster was, I can't help you. The perception. Curse of Politics is three veteran strategists who spout deeply considered insights seemingly at will. Reality. We record the show at 6:30 every morning. I set the alarm for 5, do one push-up, then drink a gallon of coffee. Without that, I can't even form a complete sentence. The perception is that our presenting sponsor, TELUS, is a telco. But TELUS is actually a technology company, one with a social purpose. Case in point is TELUS Agriculture, the largest agriculture technology business in the world. Their vision is to digitally connect all the players in what was literally the most siloed and analog of industries. From seed to farm to fork and all the constituents in between, transportation, warehousing, wholesaling, retailing, and more. Why? Because feeding the planet in the coming years is going to require a 70% increase in production. To achieve that, the industry needs better collaboration, enriched data sharing, and streamlined operations and efficiencies. TELUS Agriculture makes all of it happen, and the yield is extraordinary. The way we grow and get our food will be safer and more sustainable, economically, environmentally, and socially. TELUS Agriculture is already in more than 50 countries and works with 9 of the 10 top agricultural customers in the world. It's telling. While their competition spends big money on sports teams and media properties, TELUS would rather focus on investing in technology in industries like agriculture, healthcare, and more. To do some good, go to TELUS.com to learn more. So when I watch I could be completely wrong about this. Normally, when you've got one outlier and a bunch of other polling companies converged, it would be prudent not to choose the outlier. But I know Frank and EKOS, so I have a lot of confidence in their work. But second of all, when I watch the campaigns, I don't know. They're acting like it's more. They're acting like it's more like EKOS's numbers than Nanos's numbers. Like, what was with that Conservative campaign yesterday? Why would they end on that note?
Can I just, though, I went back and looked at 2004. The Liberals you guys got 45% of the vote, and we got 32% of the vote. So we're 5 points below what we got in the 2004 election, and we picked up. We had 24 seats coming out of that. We picked up 22 because we had 2 seats with the alliance. It's Scott Reid and Cheryl Gallant.
Wait a minute. I'm not a Conservative member of Parliament. Knock it off, Jenny. Jesus. The other thing about Frank's numbers is that it's not as spectacular as the spread in Ontario, but I think he's pretty much alone in showing the NDP getting pinched, right? Like everybody else shows the NDP vote holding at 28 to 23, whereas he shows 18%. And that's a really consequential difference because if the NDP in Ontario and other places, if they're holding their national vote at like 22, that's a problem for the Liberals in terms of converting a couple of close ones. But if they're at 18, it means that something's happened. And that to me is a big question mark because that's not as visible when you look at the campaigns. I think it's harder to just glance at the campaigns and say, how are the NDP doing?
Agree. I actually think the NDP aren't going to do that well. Did any of you guys see this TikTok video that Jagmeet Singh put on like, I don't have TikTok.
Is that the shower thing?
He's sitting in the shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was across. Listening to Dido, it was like it almost looked like something from the Crying Game, or I didn't understand. It was like it basically was like if you're going to vote NDP, it seemed like the most miserable thing to do. Like it was the weirdest GOTV video because it was like this is how you vote.
I think we remember the Crying Game differently. I thought you were going someplace else. I was thinking of another prominent scene in that movie, but anyway.
And so he was sitting with this sign about voting NDP, looking so sad and having the water pound on him. So was that to get people out to vote for him, or was that for to say, I get you guys, you're not voting for me? I actually don't even know what that was.
I don't know TikTok language.
Are we just so old we don't get it? Nick, you have to tell us. You're the youngest one.
Just hang on. Before we turn to Nick, let me just intervene here because I am the youngest person on this panel and the most social media savvy. And my understanding is from vast experience, not just having read it elsewhere, that this is an established meme on TikTok, and he's plugging in to a current that we are unaware of.
Yeah, like I'm far above the median age, even for TikTok, but I think it's fair analysis to say that Jagmeet Singh is pretty savvy there, and a lot of people like him, and most of them don't vote. And most of them probably aren't even eligible to vote.
I was about to say, do you think anyone watching that is like going to be motivated to wake up this morning and go, fuck yeah, I'm going out to vote the NDP tonight? Yeah.
Is the idea that if he's wet, it's more interesting to vote for him? Is that what I'm supposed to like? If he's untoweled, I'm going to think, God, I got to get out there and vote New Democrat. I don't quite follow. I'm 150 years old, obviously, when we try to do this kind of analysis. This
is exactly the analysis that TELUS is paying for, by the way. This is...
There you go. These motor cars, these so-called motor cars will never catch on. The horse is your friend and your companion. These unreliable tires,
Jenny.
But really, though, isn't that why Jagmeet Singh is the most popular leader? Because he's likable and he does these fun things and he connects with all kinds of different demographics, and it doesn't translate to a bump in the polls at all, ever. But who watches that? I mean, fair point, Jenny, on like the message it sends. But if you get the message, you're probably on the platform and probably like him a little more. But I don't know.
And then you go back to not voting. That's
he was really. I mean, he came in with great numbers. His numbers improved throughout the campaign. Everybody said they liked him a lot. But boy, I think they're going to be disappointed with the results. Their expectations were, at a minimum, I think, to be in the 45, 50 seat range. People on the Herle-Burley pegged at 45, which was the benchmark of success. I don't presume they were setting a bar that they thought was too high to meet.
But that's picking up. But David, 45 is picking up 21 seats. Like that's what they were.
I didn't understand that even when they were saying that.
Yeah,
it seemed like they were setting a high watermark then.
Like that's not managing expectations. Just as an FYI to the NDP, that is not managing expectations.
Well, maybe they were genuinely optimistic that in this environment with the antipathy toward the government coming into the campaign at the start of the campaign and with Singh's personal numbers, I think they had a lot of optimism about how they would do.
But say, David, you're the pollster. When do the personal popularity numbers ever translate into the actual ballot? Like everyone always is like, this person is like the most loved PM or the most trusted. I have never in all my years of campaigning ever see that has actually translated into like a ballot.
Well, not in third party people. It doesn't. No.
Well, but it doesn't even in first and second party people. Like there would be polls that would come out that people didn't like Stephen Harper. They didn't like him. Like it's not like they wanted to have a beer with him, but they actually thought he was a pretty good PM. Like
that's when you have to get into more granular assessments of what they're liking about leadership. And nobody ever did that with Singh. So maybe it's possible that, as you're saying, people said friendly guy, but
none of the pollsters are doing that because they just don't have the time or money to do that. Because we need to get our hit every day. So like it's an easy question to ask. Do you like Jagmeet Singh? Yeah, I like him. But then to drill down into that. So like to me, like the ballot numbers itself are the only ones I would look at. And even then I actually want, like, for me, I want the more granular numbers. I want the province. I want the region. I would love riding polls.
I think leaders, Jenny, to be clear, I think leaders are hugely important. But not just the top line popularity, as you say, but overall what they think about them. I think they're so important that when we do polling at the Gandalf Group, we include the leader's name in the question. So we would say, are you going to vote for Stephen Harper in the Conservative Party, Michael Ignatieff in the Liberal Party? And because that is, I think, the closest approximation to what people are thinking in the ballot is the combination of party and leader. And we always felt that gave us the most accurate result.
But it's to your point though, you're not asking about whether they like the leader. No. That's to me, whether you like the whole, this leader is like more liked. It's a useless question.
Yeah. Was Jack Layton in 2011 the exception to that? Or was he, because was that an attachment to?
No, people
some
repelled.
crazy moment.
People repelled at Michael Ignatieff. Michael Ignatieff, I described I've said this years ago when we first did the podcast.
He was vote spray. You've heard of bug spray? He was vote spray. Voter be gone.
He reminded how Michael Ignatieff and Elizabeth May. Michael Ignatieff reminded every woman of their first husband, and Elizabeth May reminded every man of his first wife. That was how I like basically
Wait a minute. Is that uniformly bad? Is that a hard and fast rule?
How's your Russian literature coming along, Scott?
Let's go back to the O'Toole for 1 second, though, because I mean, to me, you raised this point, David. Just the visuals of the whole weekend, it really felt like they limped their way through the last 2.5 days of this. Like this weekend, they were just limping, going out back doors, refusing to answer media's questions. I guess because they figured if they got asked questions, they get asked about vaccine passports and the contradiction with Kenny, because they didn't want to answer it, last week when it was news, and now they just decided the news is trying to see if they could get him to answer. So it just felt like a campaign that didn't do a lot of events, didn't do anything that drove any message at all. And it was just like it just looked like a deer that had been struck by a transport and wandered back into the woods and just kind of, was waiting to fall over.
That's a really nice analogy.
Well, that might be too severe. I mean, if you're an animal lover, but or a transport lover. But
speaking of Ignatieff, did anybody watch the documentary?
No, I couldn't.
The O'Toole documentary.
I suppose I should have as a registered analyst, but I couldn't.
Nick, you're a reporter. Did you watch it?
You know what, I meant to, but
oh goodness, that's great. I've been rereading the English Patient, and I just had to finish that first.
That sounded. It was 7:30 on HGTV and like 8 a.m. on the Food Network. I had to drive back here. I had to work all night. Like I honestly will watch it, but Nick, I just didn't.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You could watch it.
Yeah, of course it's on YouTube, but I just choose. I mean, Can
you imagine how fucking?
Do you think it's easy to make priorities? Come on,
Can you imagine how fucking pissed off you'd be if you tuned into the Food Network expecting to watch like the Great Big Britain Bake Off or whatever the hell that show is, and you got like Aaron O'Toole saying, "Anyway, I said to the pilot, well, if you're feeling sleepy, I'll grab the stick," and then we zoomed across the skies, and I defeated the enemy, and I parachuted out at the last moment with a baby in each hand. And I landed on Captain America, and he said, "My God, friend, you're even stronger than I am." Like, who would want to watch that?
What the fuck? What makes people think that voters in any number are going to voluntarily seek out a self-made documentary about yourself and watch it? And that those voters would be people that weren't committed to you, that they would be undecided voters or wavering voters or maybe people you'd steal away. Like, nobody wants to consume politics. That's why you have to force it on them with advertising and shit. Nobody wants to consume it. Who's going to voluntarily watch it?
And it was Iggy that did that, right? He thought his town halls, which were demonstrably, empirically failing.
Rise up, Scott.
They're losing the election. And they came to the conclusion that what people weren't getting enough of was him. And that, therefore, if they could just package it out and they put it into prime time, right? A documentary of him, yelling at people, right? In a town hall, saying, now this will turn it.
Easter weekend. That's what people wanted to see on Easter weekend. That's right.
Rise up. It was a double entendre. He's so clever, right? They rolled the boulder away from the cave, and Michael just walked out and waltzed across the water in his Jesus boots. It was awful. These documentaries are always awful. They're by definition a vanity project.
Totally. Since Confederation, owning a home has been part of the Canadian dream. For most people, that dream is much more than just a monthly mortgage payment. A home is where we create our fondest memories and where we can truly be ourselves. For too many, especially young adults, that reality is out of reach, and it's getting worse. The good news is our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, or RIA for short, has a plan to save the Canadian dream of home ownership. It includes lowering costs for first-time buyers, ending money laundering in the real estate market, and cutting years of red tape that is standing in the way of more affordable homes for families. The AREA plan will lay the foundation for a future where all people can find a place to call home. When we support the dreams of all of us who want to own a home, we're building healthier families, stronger communities, and a safer, more secure future for all. Read their plan at orea.com/affordable homes. So, today, Election Day, for most people working in the campaigns, this is an extraordinarily busy day. You're going from stem to stern to get the vote out in your ridings. But, Jenni, campaign managers, not so much. What were you doing on the Election Day 2011 Election Day? What were you doing?
So 2011, I was in Calgary. I got on a plane, and when I landed in Calgary, Osama bin Laden had been killed. Like it was there was no Wi-Fi on during those days. So I had a 4-hour flight. I got off the plane. It was Osama bin Laden. I was staying at the Hyatt downtown Calgary, and I had computers set up so I could watch voter ID. So I don't know, David, what you guys had but like I could watch as local campaigns were putting in bingo sheets. It was kind of real time. So I had that, but I also did things like I whitened my teeth, and Harper talked to a bunch of world leaders. So I listened in on that. And so it's a day, if you're like a national campaign manager, like you're kind of overseeing stuff. But if you're a local campaign manager, it's like it's the most exhausting of the days.
Yeah, for sure. Scotty, where were you in 2004?
The Queen Anne Hotel, writing remarks up for the PM for that evening. Wholly confident. Actually, you know what happened to me in 2004? Do you remember this, David? Terry and Feschuk
went to the spa. Took you to the spa.
Booked me into the spa. And I know this may be a controversial opinion, but I don't like spas. I don't like massages. I don't want a stranger touching my body. I'm a raw nerve on election day. Even if we knew we were going to win, I wanted to work. I wanted to drink a beer. So like the idea that I was going to be in this terry cloth robe and then someone was going to come in I didn't know and start putting their hands on. I just was like, oh, it was the worst experience. So then I just said, no, I'm not doing this, and went to the room and drank beer and wrote a victory speech. And called people nervously and just did, seat by seat. Like that's what you spend most of your day going, okay, well, I don't know. I think we're going to win Haldeman. No, I don't think we're going to win Haldeman. Okay. Okay. So that takes me down to 163. Fuck, we need more than 163. Like I spent the whole day doing that. Right. Which is how I'm going to spend the whole day today.
Exactly. Seat counts like at around 10 a.m. I'm going to go to my friend Brooke and Rachel's hotel room, and we're going to go seat by seat. David, what have you spent?
I will be hiding in the bathroom. Scott, what were you doing here? There's something that Brooke and I need to tell you.
David, what would you say? Like name a campaign like when you were managing campaigns that like not a riding campaign, but like the whitening of the teeth and talking to George W. Bush type story that you might have done.
Well, 2004, I spent the night before with Webster and Jack Fleischman out in the Outaouais having dinner and drinking. We decided to take Jack to the Outaouais because he hadn't known it existed at the beginning of the campaign. He was in charge of our advertising buy, and we went a full week of the campaign without any French Ottawa media because Jack hadn't heard of the Outaouais. So we took him out to the Outaouais for dinner night before the election. We waited until my little BlackBerry buzzed me that the overnights were in.
Now, would have been the big BlackBerry, like the one that's the size of an iPad now. But those fuckers, they lasted for 2 weeks without recharging them. But anyways,
they were awesome, but you couldn't open an attachment. So we had to go into my office, 2 o'clock in the morning. The three of us, we fire up my computer, look at the overnights, satisfied that we're okay. And then we crash. We get up the next morning. We drive to Montreal, to the Queen Elizabeth. And Terry has taken Scott and Feschuk and a bunch of other people off to the spa. She's left me the key to our room. I go in and I go to bed. I have a nap in the afternoon. And I'm awakened from my nap. I'm getting old. I may have told this story before, but it's a pretty good story. I'm awakened from my nap by Sheila Martin, who's had the RCMP let her into my room. And she's sitting on the side of the bed, and she's shaking me awake, And I wake up and she says, "What's going to happen today?" And I said, "I think we're going to win. I think it's a minority. There's an outside chance of a majority, but I'm pretty confident we're going to win a minority." And she's like, "Nobody else is saying that. Nobody else is saying that. Don't lie to him." And I'm like, why would I lie? It's election day. Like, the results are going to be in a few hours. Like, they're a very low percentage in lying. And I had to get out of bed and take Sheila through the data. Like, we were looking at spreadsheets and
what do you sleep? And what do you sleep in, David? Because that could have been an awkward getting out of bed.
Well, there was a little bit of transition. There was a transitional period there that had to be managed.
The answer to your question is Elton John underpants.
Anyway, she was so protective of him that she thought that I was bullshitting him that we were going to win, because it was Ipsos and Bricker and those people were saying we were going to lose decisively. And so
that's sweet.
I think that's a lovely story about Sheila. I think it's very sweet. She did not. Yeah. She didn't intrude into political strategy, and she wasn't one of those sort of political spouses. But I think the fact that she intervened in that way on that day, I think it is a sweet story. She's like, don't bullshit my husband at this very important moment.
That is sweet. Well, in terms of like, so in 2011. We were watching the results come in, and we had not won a seat in Newfoundland and Labrador, and of course, 2008 had been the Danny Williams election. I know, Scott, you like Danny Williams a lot.
So much. Yeah.
So much. Yeah. And so in 2011, and so we were we were picking up seats in Nova Scotia. We're picking up seats in New Brunswick, PEI, Gail Shea, and then all of a sudden, Peter Panashaway was elected in like Labrador, and I was like, fuck yes, we win in Newfoundland and Labrador. And so we were in Calgary, so we had like a suite where staff were watching the results, and the suite where the families were watching the results. The Teskes, Mrs. Harper, and the Prime Minister's families. And so I go in and I'm like, we just won Labrador, and Mrs. Harper's like, "Oh, go in, go. Stephen's just in getting ready. Just go in the bedroom and just tell him that we won Labrador." And so I'm like, okay. So I like go in, and he's like doing up his shirt, and I'm like, "Sir, we just won Labrador." And he's like, "Jenny, I'm so happy. And when I finish getting dressed, I'll come across the hall."
Oh man, Nick, what do reporters do on election day? Jenny and I ran into Marika Walsh from the Globe Mail yesterday, and she was telling us, like, I'm going to be on the desk filing and refiling all night long with these ridiculous deadlines. So it sounded like she's got a tough night. But what do you guys do during the day? I assume you drink and eat eat Old Dutch chips. Is that right?
I'm going to sleep a little bit, to be honest. The last two elections, though, I've had these enormous spreadsheets, and I've had every candidate who could conceivably win that night in all of the ridings across Canada. And then as the results are coming in, like as soon as a winner is declared by, CP, plugging those in to another spreadsheet and then having this kind of real-time reporting, which distressingly few people actually read, but fulfills me a lot.
Fuck, I want to party with you. I want to party with you, Danger Pants. You sound like a madman.
Well, at Maclean's magazine on election night, I got to say, the last two elections, I think I was the most exciting guy in the whole place. It felt really good.
But that's because Paul Wells is 2 desks over, so that's not that fucking tough.
That's not a commentary on Maclean's. It's just a commentary on how excited I was. It's everyone is sort of working on these really serious stories and thumpers and features, and everyone's thinking like, what does this mean for Canada? And I'm like, holy shit! Did you guys just see what happened? And like, in Nunavut, like, oh my God, the NDP just won. It was crazy. So that's the kind of stuff that I do. Yeah. Although I'm pretty surprised that you didn't, David, come to me to talk to me about the campaign that I first won, which was when I was acclaimed as the sports editor at the University of Ottawa's student newspaper in 2006. And let me tell you, that was a glorious, glorious achievement. No one even ran against me.
Huh. You were that good. You scared off the competition.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I did it again the next year.
Ooh, with muscle that time, I bet.
Yeah,
you went negative.
That was in my fifth year.
You went negative in year 2.
Negative. Yeah.
They were like, this guy's going into his fifth year. We can't mess with him. He's probably the best.
Marie France says she's a French person, but you can't trust a thing she writes. Jenni,
Hey, it's that time of the show. It's that time of the show.
Wait. We got to get seat projections. We got to get something. Jenni knows every riding. No, we're not doing that.
I don't. You know that I don't give seat projections.
Let's save the postmortems till tomorrow. And why do you want to be so wrong in front of everybody? Like, why do you want?
Why stop now? Right,
Scott, you will wear me down in 8 hours of us sitting beside each other. I'll end up giving you a seat projection.
Exactly. I'll just on air. I'll be like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in Saskatchewan?
Time for our final curses of the campaign season.
All right.
Start with you, Nick. You got a curse?
I can have a curse. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You have all spent a lot of time talking about in the home stretch here about vote splits, right? And where they all go. And so I guess my curse, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I think it's to vote splits. Because who knows how far into the conservative vote that People's Party surge, if it's as much of a surge, especially as Frank says it is, will hit seat counts. All these ridings without Green Party candidates, where are they going to go? And Jenni's talked about West Nova. I've been looking at that as well, in particular among other places on the West Coast.
I've been just so you know, I've been talking about the vote splits for like 3 weeks.
I know. I just said that. Yeah. Total credit to you, of course. But the bloc in Quebec and the soft NDP vote, how soft it gets. There's so many, and that feels like the only unanswered sort of questions left are where do those vote splits go? And I guess the question I had to you all of you that I was thinking about this whole time was how much those are captured in pollsters polls, like national level, not at all. Regionally, I don't know, maybe, but that seems to have just been something that everyone's thinking about, and no one quite knows where it's all going to fall.
Listen, cool. I'm gonna say that it's definitely not captured that I see in the polls, and I actually don't think it's captured in the seat counts because a lot of times when the seat counts are done, they're not taking in the factors that you talked about. They're looking at past results, and they're not actually looking at any of the individual factors, and so. Anyways, my curse, Mike, I'll go next, David. My curse, but it's to all of my friends, mostly in the Conservative Party, although I do like some people in the Liberal Party, as you guys know. I like guys like Marco Mendicino, but I wish listen, guys, this is the final day. It has been fucking shitty. You guys are all tired. You haven't seen your families. This is the day where you feel like you literally are just pulling out the last little bit of energy that you have to crash tonight, regardless of whether it's win or lose. And so I'm just saying, good luck to all my friends, regardless of political stripes. I hope the Conservatives do a lot better than the other parties, but honestly, God love you guys. And thank you for having the ability or the willing to put your name on a ballot.
Absolutely.
My curse is inspired by Nick. My curse is inspired by Nick in the playbook this morning because I saw that Nick did a little piece in the playbook where he collected the very, very many political observers and columnists that said this campaign was about nothing. And my curse is people that say this campaign is about nothing. That is the most trite, most uninteresting, and most untruthful piece of political analysis going. It is not about nothing. Just because the result may resemble what happened in 2019 does not mean this campaign was about nothing. Campaigns always matter, even when they give you the same result as last time, and it matters a lot. Aaron O'Toole is going to think that this campaign matters a lot. He hauled out Brian Mulroney and declared himself not Stephen Harper, and I think that's going to have big consequences. It will matter to him after this election when Jenni and others pound a nail through a board and chase him through the streets. I think it matters a lot to Justin Trudeau that he called an election and was unable to get a majority. I think it matters a lot to the country that we started out talking about the pandemic. It got off that subject. It returned to the pandemic. I think that matters a lot. I think lots and lots and lots of important things happened. It was not a campaign about nothing. Campaigns are never about nothing. And if that's your analysis, you should turn in your press card because you are writing shit.
Excellent.
I just want the listeners to know that I agree with Scott Reid.
There we go.
Just want to cover my butt there.
Only time will tell. My curse goes out to Frank Graves.
Woo!
Frank, you're an outlier. You're out there with a big, bold Big bold prediction, and I'm hanging with you today, Frank. I'm a Brian Mulrooneyite when it comes to you dance with the one that brung you. Frank, we worked together for 30 years. I believe in you, and I'm hanging in with you in this forecast today, so let's cross our fingers and hope for somewhere north of 160 tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
You slipped a prediction in there, you lying mongoose. You slipped a prediction in.
So, everybody that tuned into this show through the whole campaign, thank you so much for doing it. We've had a blast doing it, but really because we knew people were out there listening and enjoying and having fun with it. So it's been a great experience for us. I hope it helped you get through the campaign. I obviously want to thank Nick, Taylor Vasey, and Politico for everything that they have done on this thing. And I want to thank EKOS for their daily numbers and our presenting sponsor, TELUS, and the Ontario Real Estate Association. Thank you for your financial support for this project. And there will be an extended version of Curse of Politics tomorrow morning, bright and early, 1 hour session where we take this thing apart, put it back together, take it apart again, and look at it from all different sides. It's going to be fun.
Torture the losers and the winners.
Totally. Have a great evening today. Have a great evening. Listen to CBC Radio. Turn the TV on, just with the audio off. Listen to CBC Radio. Watch CTV. And we'll see you all tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot.